Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to talk to you about infrastructure, and in so doing, I'm feeling decidedly out of fashion. It wasn't so long ago that the in-word was infrastructure. In the halls of power, they spoke of little else. Now it appears the in-word is innovation. I am going to give you an update on Perth Airport. I'm going to spend my time evenly between using the activity through Perth Airport, recent activity trends through Perth Airport, to somewhat take the pulse of the West Australian economy. There is a very high correlation between commercial aviation demand and the activity in the state. I'm then going to spend some time talking about the investments that we've just rounded out at the airport, and then finally just give you a sense of the investments that we're now working on that will be the next wave. So the first graph before you is a rolling 12-month growth rate of international passengers through Perth Airport. And it's important to look at the y-axis and see where zero is on these graphs, and you'll see a lot of volatility. What is giving us cause for hope is that we've seen that rolling 12-month growth rate step up in the last 3 months, and international passengers this month we expect to grow by around 2%. Again, focusing on that y-axis, this is interstate and intrastate passenger movements. In case of interstate, we are seeing a turn for the better in recent times, a trend up from a period of contraction. However, the intrastate is still trying to find the bottom. And if you look at the last few months, the rate of decline has actually increased. So that is a fair indication of the charter, the resource sector FIFO activity. And this is another way of looking at that FIFO activity. This is general aviation activity at the airport. We measure it in landed tonnes rather than passengers, because that sector is quite aircraft movement intensive and passenger light, a lot of small aircraft. You can see it's been very volatile. From the period about 2006 to 2008, the level of activity tripled. It then fell back substantially during the GFC, and then when we saw that there was a world after the GFC, it took off again, and now you can see with the fall off in commodity prices, it's come back substantially. And this is aircraft movements, rolling 12-month growth rate. And again, look at that y-axis. We're talking a very significant decline in aircraft movements at Perth Airport. About 1 in 9 movements from the peak has disappeared. And it wasn't so long ago that we were, quite frankly, up against it in terms of airspace and airfield capacity. It seemed also, from our perspective, that the third runway was what people spoke of quite insistently. But at the same time, as the demand has come off the system, we've greatly improved working with air services and airlines. We've greatly improved productivity from the existing system, and on-time performance at Perth Airport is amongst the best in Australia now. Shifting now to what we have delivered, we've just come out of a $1.1 billion redevelopment program, and I'm not hijacking the state government's project by putting the Gateway project up first. I'm working from the outskirts of the airport in. But we've heard about state debt this morning and the level of state debt, and in Lisa's presentation she focused on productivity, and she highlighted that the nation's productivity is really the sum of the productivity of all of the nation's enterprises and undertakings, either enabled or dragged by government. This piece of infrastructure is a wonderfully productivity enhancing piece of infrastructure. And regardless of your view, your political views, this is a great legacy for our state. The co-location of the airport, the Kewdale industrial area, and the state's main rail freight hub is of itself urban planning that is highly productive and efficient in nature. What it lacked was the backbone road infrastructure. It now has it and has it in spades. So it's a credit to the state government to conceive this project and to the state and federal governments that funded it. It has profoundly changed the access to Perth Airport. Part of our redevelopment is we've spent $50 million on, $55 million on completely redoing the Terminal 1 forecourt, the international and now Virgin domestic forecourt. And we're getting wonderful feedback about that redevelopment. And the fact that there's very few airports globally, and certainly there's none in Australia, where the state's native vegetation is on display within 2 metres of the terminal doors. Still under construction in the middle of the forecourt is another development, a $15 million investment in enhanced retailing in a piazza-like area. We're looking to activate the forecourt. There'll be high-quality restaurant, cafe, juice bar, ice cream, and health offerings. And in that piazza, the intention is to activate it with live entertainment. We've spent $145 million completely redeveloping all of the outbound and inbound processes in the international terminal, and I hear you say long overdue. And as I highlight this, we're not only boring infrastructure, we have been taking a global benchmarking, global better practice approach, and we have been adopting the latest of technology and innovation. In the ceiling space of all these processing areas now is video analytics. We're managing in real time passenger wait times and processing rates, and we're transitioning from that into predictive analytics so that we can anticipate the problems that might be there and deal with them before they become problems. So that's the outbound immigration border force area. By the way, there'll be automated outbound gates by mid-next year, thanks to Border Force Australia. Our new passenger screening area, 5 new lanes, including a family and elderly or disabled lane. We expanded the international departure hall on both ends. This is down the western end where we have 2 A380 capable gates and new seating areas and new Emirates lounge. And on the inward journey, this is the inbound immigration and smart gate area and the expanded reclaim area. The largest of our projects, and the 200 million on that slide should really be 330 million in terms of this total project, but the largest project in our scheme was the new domestic pier at the western end of Terminal 1, which has become the new home for Virgin Australia. We opened that in November, and it went straight into the very busy Christmas period and just was a stunning success. Just some images, the new Virgin Australia check-in area, which is their equivalent of the Qantas next-gen check-in processing. We're out in the pier here with the enhanced retail offering, including the first pharmacy at the airport. And this is just looking out to the end of the pier, the gates. So we're very proud of this facility. It's got very substantial capacity. Virgin Australia is putting around 2 million passenger movements through it a year. That's capable of 7 or 8 million passengers, so a lot of headroom in the infrastructure. Turning now to, I'd just like to highlight one element of the redevelopment. We had a lot of very constructive feedback about the poor quality of the food and beverage and retail offering at the airport, and we set about doing something about it. You still can get Hungry Jacks at the airport. Don't be concerned. And I'm telling you, you are not the typical demographic at the airport. Hungry Jacks is the most popular retail offering at the airport, but we have taken up the challenge of putting a higher quality food and beverage offering. This is just an example. We've partnered with Chris Taylor of Fraser's fame to bring some great local West Australian food and beverage into the airport. This is the long neck ale house in both the international terminal and the pier. It's just a step change in the offering at Perth Airport. This is a photo of harvest, again in Terminal 1 International, and the focus of this offering is freshness and healthy food offering, and again proving to be very popular. And this is the latest development. This was only opened a week and a half ago, so most of you will not have seen it. Again, up in the international departures hall, one of the significant weaknesses at the airport. We've just opened a significant expansion to the eastern end of that departures lounge, which includes a great new food and beverage offering with a great range of produce. It has a children's play area, and it also has a lounging area for long layover or transit passengers. And that's just another perspective of it. This graph shows the outcomes from our participation in what is a global airport service of quality monitoring regime. The scale on the y-axis, 1 is poor and 5 is excellent, 4 is very good. Perth Airport, our last quarter result was 3.94, approaching very good, and importantly that data predated the opening of the new pier, so we're expecting a further step up, and that will we expect if we step up to above the 4s, we will be actually close to the best in Australia in that airport service quality monitoring of overall airport rating. So we've come a long way, and I do take the opportunity to thank you for the pain that we all went through on that journey as we redeveloped the existing airport. I quickly want to turn to, have you got your bell in your hand yet? No? Okay, good. I want to quickly move to the next phase of redevelopment. One thing that we've learnt from the last 7 or 8 years is that Western Australia is highly volatile and very hard to predict. And if there's a lesson for us, we really need to be able to shorten the lead time of delivering capacity and improvements in customer experience. So we're continuing on with our planning, our design to shorten lead times, and slightly cliched, but we do intend to invest through the cycle. You all know, I think by now, because I've been banging on about it for years, that the master plan for the airport involves us consolidating into one precinct. We call it Airport Central. It's where the international terminal is. So the next phase is to take the Qantas domestic operations, about 6.5 million passengers, and take them over to the other side of the terminal, of the airport. So we're busily working on the nature and shape of that. But the next wave of investments that we are undertaking is highlighted on this slide. And to orientate you, the international terminal, I don't think this will work, the international terminal is right bang in the middle there. So the things that we're working on now is the first multi-storey car parks, so we're well into design of those. We expect to get cracking on those quite soon. We're doing the design and approvals phase of the new runway. That's a circa $400 million investment. And we're well into the design of a new international terminal pier for the airport. Whilst we've spent a lot of money making the best we can out of the existing terminal, and we've improved it substantially, there are some fundamental structural deficiencies in that terminal that mean that incremental expansion of that terminal won't make sense. So we will be developing a new international facility. To give you an idea of scale, the pier that we just opened for Virgin was around $330 million. The current estimate of that new international pier is $800 million. So it's another step up again. These are just some close-ups of the new car parks. And by the way, in relation to the new car parks, I should mention that we have reached terms with the state government for the development and operation of the rail coming through the airport, the Forestfield Rail Link. I've got a slide on that in a moment. The reason I raise it now is that a very critical aspect that we're working with the Public Transport Authority is to make sure that we integrate the design of the rail system into the built form in that precinct to deliver a great experience. Just some close-ups of the new international pier that we're working on. And then, as I said, we think the Airport Forestfield rail link is a sensational project. Rail must come to capital city airports at some time in their life, and it's fantastic to see it coming to Perth Airport at this stage in our life. And it's timely because it allows us to, as I said, integrate the rail system into the built form that we're about to undertake in the next wave. All up, that next wave of investment, we are looking at about $1.5 billion. And that's just a close-up of the location of the third runway. And I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for your time.